Video 3, restricted domain. A restriction on the domain refers to a value or values that we cannot put into a function. For this unit, we really only need to take account of two rules in order to restrict a domain. Rule 1, we can never divide by 0. Cannot divide by 0. This is impossible in maths. If you try it on the calculator, it will give you an error. Rule 2, we cannot square root a negative number, so we can only put values of x in that makes the number under the square root sign positive or 0. Cannot square root a negative number. So use these two rules. We'll use rule 1 in the example on page 10. We have a function f of x equals 1 divided by x subtract 5. Now, we cannot divide by 0, so x subtract 5 on the denominator cannot be 0. This means x subtract 5 is not equal to 0. If it was equal to 0, we don't have an answer for the function, so x doesn't map to any number in the range. So we need to restrict the domain by saying that x is not allowed to be 5, because if it was 5, we would be dividing by 0, which is rule 1. Cannot divide by 0. On page 11, we'll have example 3. F of x equals square root x subtract 3. This uses rule 2, that we cannot have a negative number inside the square root. So x subtract 3 inside the square root cannot be negative. So that means it can be positive or 0. So x subtract 3 is greater than or equal to 0 for this function to exist or make sense. That means that x has to be greater than or equal to 3. Now you can check this. For example, if x was equal to 2, we would have 2 subtract 3 underneath the square root, which is negative 1, and that doesn't work because you can't take the square root of a negative number. Cannot take the square root of a negative number. So we restrict the domain so that x is greater than or equal to 3. And your notebook has written that x belongs to, with the sign we used earlier, the set of real numbers, colon, where x is greater than or equal to 3. So it can be any number as long as x is greater than or equal to 3. Example 4. f of x is equal to the square root of 4 subtract 2x. Again, this uses rule 2. The terms underneath the square root cannot be negative, so 4 subtract 2x must be greater than or equal to 0, or we have a negative number. Now we have an equation to solve. Add on 2x, then divide by 2. So this says that x is less than or equal to 2. We can change them round like this. X is less than or equal to 2. So that's a restriction on the domain. Which means that x can be any number as long as it's less than or equal to 2. X belongs to the set of real numbers where x is less than or equal to 2.